Mike Goering again, back with you to talk about following instructions. And I guarantee you're as bad as I am at following instructions. Everybody is. Partly because a lot of times we don't even realize we've been given instructions to follow. And the other part is we weren't paying close attention to the instructions we were given, so we don't follow them explicitly. And then the third part is we just don't care and we don't follow any instructions. And that's where everybody starts. Is we don't care. We're independent. Nobody tells us what to do, and so we're terrible at following instructions in the beginning, and then we get mediocre at following instructions, and we follow some of them and don't follow others. And then when we get great at following instructions, you can make a lot of money following instructions. You can also save a lot of money following instructions. It'll save you tons of money if you just follow the instructions you were given, and that's what we're going to talk about in this particular video. So first of all, the importance of following instructions. There are companies that go out and just follow instructions for a living and are successful and make a ton of money. I recently, a couple years back, I heard about a company that goes into grocery stores and says, hey look, I will follow the instructions you were given for a percentage of the money I make you. And what they do is they go through the supplier's contracts, and they say, okay, well, we bought this much of this product, and so we were entitled to a discount on the remainder of this product, and we're filling out this form, and we're getting the discount back that we were due, deserving because of our contract. And they go in and they make millions of dollars just by going into grocery stores and following the instructions in the contracts that these grocery stores got into and didn't follow. In marriage, people are terrible at following instructions in marriage. They say, well, I wasn't given any instructions in marriage. Well, yeah, actually you were. When you stood before the judge or the preacher, they said to have and to hold, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and health, till death do us part. And there are a lot of marriages that would be a lot better off if people would do a little bit more having and holding, if you know what I mean. So if you didn't realize that those were instructions, then you're not going to be very good at following them. Another one is, we were told by our parents, hey, go to college, get a good job, and, save your money, and you'll be happy. You'll have a good life. Well, they go to college, and they get a job, but they didn't get a good job, and there's a difference. Anybody who's had very many jobs knows there's a big difference between a job and a good job. And I thought I didn't press record for a second. That was going to be bad. To hold a job, you have to follow instructions. You have to do what your boss tells you to do. And the moment that you don't, chances are good he's going to replace you with somebody who's better at following instructions than you are. If you want to keep a family, we talked about a marriage, but not just a marriage, a family. There are instructions in a family. In the family, they're more implicit instructions than explicit instructions. As a husband, we're generally supposed to provide for our family, make sure there's food in the fridge and, dinner on the table and rent's paid and all that stuff. And, this goes back to, I kind of alluded to it in an earlier video. We're going to get to it in a video coming up. Actually, the next video is going to talk about you don't realize you're in competition with everyone for everything, and that plays into this a little bit. If you're in competition with everyone for everything, then you have to understand you're in competition for your job, and that's determined by how well you follow instructions. You're in competition for your wife, and even if you've a wife or spouse or husband or whatever. Even if you've already got them, you're still in competition because there might be a better one out there, and marriages end all the time. If you're in business, you're in competition with providing a product or a service at a comparable cost to the competitors. If you're driving a car, you're in competition for that road space some mornings, and if you're I got notes up here and I put them too low. if you want to excel at anything, you're in competition for the resources that are required for you to excel at that particular thing. So if you're going to be good at anything, if you're going to be successful in life, if you're going to be successful in marriage, if you're going to be successful in business, if you're going to be successful at a job, if you're going to be successful in anything, you know, boot camp is a great example of learning to follow instructions. People are terrible at following instructions, and they think they're great at it until they get screamed at for 9 weeks straight or whatever it is. And then by the end of that 9 weeks, they're a lot better at following instructions, you know. They say, well, I didn't know what I was supposed to do. Well, a lot of times instructions come in bite-sized bits, you know. You'll get the first instruction, and if you don't do that, then the rest of them don't matter. Why would I give you a second or third instruction if you haven't followed the first one yet? You know, if the instructions include go outside and you don't go outside, nothing I tell you that requires you to be outside is even worth saying, because you're not outside. So we go through this stuff, and we think we're great at following instructions. We're not great at following instructions, and you have to learn to follow instructions, not just as a child, not just to get through school or to get through college, but to have a career, to be in service of any kind for any length of time. You have to get good at following instructions, and you have to get so good at following instructions, okay, that you can both translate those instructions to people, subordinates. If you're in leadership, you have to get so good at following instructions if you're in business that you can duplicate the process across multiple people or multiple locations. Intel has a system where they make somebody an expert at something, and when they start up a new plant, they take that expert at something and they move them physically to that new plant, because what they've found is that making processors and such is such a complicated process and such a technically involved process that unless you're an expert and unless you train under an expert, you're going to miss something. If you can't implicitly follow the instructions that were given, they can't just be duplicated by word of mouth or by writing them down. They have to be trained into a person, repetition and by sight, so that they can see what's going on, so that they can duplicate those processes. And it's a brilliant concept, because people suck at following instructions. If you've ever been denied a claim for your insurance, chances are you were denied your claim and you stopped right there. In your contract was probably a provision for if you've been denied a claim and you want to appeal, you can go through the appeals process. And I heard a story that a while back the Social Security disability was denying all claims. They're just rubber stamping them, denied, 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 denied. And unless you appealed the process, unless you could follow the instructions for the appeal process, you weren't going to get Social Security disability. And it's the same way with insurance claims. Sometimes to save money, if they're going through a tight period, they rubber stamp denied on stuff, and see how good at following instructions you really are. If you've got a warranty, you've got to follow instructions to get your warranty coverage. If you've got a what do they call them, a rebate. I'm terrible at following instructions for rebates. I don't consider a rebate price or rebate as part of my decision buying process, because I know I'm not going to follow the instructions, fill them out to get my $50 back. So if I can't afford the $50 without the rebate, I don't buy it, because I'm not going to get my $50. And this is the thing: you have to get good at following instructions, and not just the simple stuff, but in the complex legal stuff, in contracts and insurance clauses and claims and in your marriage and in your family. Following instructions is an inherent part of life, and everybody who's going to be successful has got to learn to follow instructions. You got to. Legal matters, if you get if your first approach to the legal system gets denied, you have an appeals process, and if you can follow those instructions, you might still win. It might save you millions or make you millions. You've got to learn to follow instructions and get good at it, and realize when you've been given instructions so that you can follow them. You know, if you've ever been through a failed marriage, then you didn't follow instructions, because, or one party didn't follow instructions, because to have and to hold, for rich or for poor, in sickness and health, till death do us part, was an instruction. So if you're a workaholic and you're married, you're probably not following instructions, because that having that hold part takes some time and effort. And if you're a workaholic, I'm talking to myself here. I work gobs more than an insane person should. So it's just the way life is. And if you're going to be successful in life, you've got to learn to follow instructions. In the next video, we're going to talk about how you don't realize you're in competition with everyone for everything. And if you do, if you realize that, then it'll give you an edge up. It'll give you an advantage on the playing field of life, and you'll be much, much more successful. So I'll see you in the next video, and I hope you got a lot of value and information out of this one.